Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Crow.
I can
Can you
hear
hear me?
you.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I think we did have a plan to talk about Halloween, but then I fell down a rabbit hole. And
Maybe we can do 50% Halloween or 25. I've got two Halloween related things, and we can do your stuff. But why don't you go ahead and start, and then I'll interject mine, and then you can continue at some point. Maybe it'll all become
yeah,
relevant eventually.
yeah, sometimes it does. Well, let's start out with our prayer, and
Okay.
I guess you go ahead this week.
Okay. All right. Um, First, I'll do both of them, the personal one and then the world one. Universal Father, I rededicate myself to your service. Eternal Son, I rededicate myself to your service. Infinite Spirit, I rededicate myself to your service. Amen. Heavenly Father, I pray for the residents, council, and reeve of this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, councils, and mayors of the villages in this rural municipality. I pray for the residents, council, and mayor of the capital city of this province. I pray for the MLAs and the premier of this province. I pray for the people of this province. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the MPs and the Prime Minister of Canada. I pray for the people of Canada. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for the Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court of the United States. I pray for the people of the United States. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. I pray for all the leaders of this world, and finally, Father, I pray for all the people of this world. May we discern the truth, and may we find the courage to stand up for what is right. Amen.
Amen. Man, yeah, I like that one. It kind of covers everything.
Thank you.
Because, I mean, a teenager, sooner or later, has to clean up their own room. And we are basically, as a society, as a people, we're at like that teenage stage in our evolution. And we're kind of expected to clean up our room. But yeah, we do have an advantage, though, a helpful advantage, and that is we had the Son of Man teach us a better way just as we were starting to come into that teenage existence, like what they would call a tween. And I'd say as a society, we're probably somewheres between maybe a 14-year-old and maybe a 17 or 16-year-old. Some of
Okay.
us are a little bit further ahead of the curve than others, obviously. And we know which ones are still the 14-year-olds because these are the groups that are still kicking and screaming and I don't know, holding their breath and still trying to get their way like spoiled children. The 16, 17 year old segments of our society are like, fuck, I guess somebody's got to do it.
I always love the spoiled kid who tries to threaten his parents by saying he'll hold his breath, because you can't kill yourself that way. Just by doing that, you'll pass out.
I used to let my kids do it. Well, I mean, it never lasted long. Tantrums did not last long in my house. Of course, the kids tried. Of course, they did. But it just like it lasted like as long as the first one took for them to get past it, and they didn't get much of a rise, and all they got was a lot of alone time. And my kids don't like alone time.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
So our society is in adolescence
I
right now.
think so. I think that we have a lot of growing up to do, and the decisions, just like
Hmm.
any maturing person, the decisions that you make as a young man affect you for a very long time into your adulthood. I mean,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
just that's just the way it is. I mean, I know some people's bad decisions that have lasted, that have affected them right up until like they're well into their 40s. Usually it's related to
Yeah.
addiction, like alcohol, which is just one of those negative addictions that only seem to create more problems than they solve. uh, but yeah, people are standing up though. So in part of your prayer is people discerning the truth and finding courage. Yeah, a lot of that's happened this week. There's a doctor in Edmonton, I think. Anyways, he inspects laboratories across Canada, and he's coming out and he's saying that just straight up, everything that the government is saying is bullshit. Just straight up says it, and then he goes into why, and he's pissed off. And he's calling this thing like the biggest uncontrolled experiment the world has ever seen because they don't know anything. The data is just, he said, right now, he says it's politicians playing scientists. And he's like, that's just a bad, bad, bad idea. And well, I don't think he's wrong. I mean, it is a bad idea. And I don't know what the well, oh man, it's all yeah, it's all bad coming in the future. I don't know. I guess this is Halloween Horror Story. Yeah, this is Halloween Horror Story because the first jab is supposed to compromise your immune system by 40%. The second one uh, compromises it by 20 more percent. And then the third one pretty much wipes you out. And they're saying that a lot of people are going to be immune compromised by Christmas. And they're showing the numbers and they're showing like this is the where the graft is heading. And it's just like this can't be real. I mean, this can't be real.
I
But
see.
these numbers are coming from Great Britain, and what happened is this reporter kept on sending in the same FOIA request week after week after week after week for 6 months. And of course, they kept on saying, no, this data does not exist. And then one day, the email showed up in his box. And any any logical person would understand what happened is that his request finally landed in front of somebody that is like, I'm tired of this bullshit and I can do something and not really get into trouble. Because if somebody
Yeah.
came to that person and asked, why did you do that? And just be like, oops. And what more can you do beyond that? So I thought to myself, and plus, it is data that is normally public information, except the government didn't refuse to hand it over. They just said they didn't have it. So that means that was probably filed under some.
Is that treason? Remind me. It's a crime, I think. I don't know if it's treason or not. It depends what the other implications are.
It may not.
Obstruction of justice.
Obstruction, it would be some kind of obstruction,
Yeah.
but it would go back
Mm-hmm.
because I know how these things are done. Um, it would go back to the person that created the folder to begin with. Because all you would have to
Mm-hmm.
do is mislabel a folder slightly, and then
Yeah.
you would put in a FOIA request, and the person's just going to type it in word for word what you're asking. And if it doesn't come up,
Mm.
there's not much searching beyond that for these people. It would take
Right.
a,
Because this is all digital, right? They've got it stored on
oh
computers
yeah,
and stuff now.
yeah, no,
Or
it's
no,
all
they
on
have
computer. Nobody's
X.
sifting through files. Are you
Yeah.
kidding? Shows up as a PDF.
I just remember the Pentagon Papers and stuff like that.
I know people,
We saw that movie, or they did. I
yeah.
watched part of it, but yeah, this guy he took the box with him. He bought it an airline seat to fly it to wherever,
Mm.
you know. So, but yeah, no, it's the governments are not, they're not wasteful exactly like that. They would digitize the stuff
Oh,
by
everything.
now or have digital copies of it.
And there really isn't much choice except to have digital copies because all of this stuff is being entered
Mm-hmm.
at the hospital level. So I mean,
Yep.
they're not keeping paper
Yep.
copies of anything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just keeping the charts that is at the end of somebody's bed. Really, that's it.
Right.
Everything else is logged in. Hell, even I mean, where I work, all of my work orders are logged in. Yeah. I mean, you can't
Okay.
even open up a manhole without getting a email from the city hall.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
No, everything's digital now. Nothing. I mean, yeah, nothing is when they say that they've got like thousands of documents, that's all on a zip drive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
and the thing is that people got to understand about digital documents. Digital documents can be locked and they cannot be altered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can
indeed.
like
Yeah, you can have some pretty gnarly encryption keys on those
yeah.
things.
So when you open up a PDF from like even like from most companies, it's going to be secure. You can't alter it in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And because all the features for like leaving comments or anything like that, they're all disabled. And yeah, you're right. It's an
Mm-hmm.
encrypted lock that probably nobody even knows anyways, because the computer generates that shit and then just locks the document and it's done. There's no opening it back up without a lot of effort anyways.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so these are our documents and a lot of stuff is starting to come out now. It's going to turn into an avalanche. And I mean, I really hope it doesn't happen, but um, Kim Clement, he said something just obscure that one of the first signs that one of the things that that Michael is going to do to really show his power to the people with eyes to see is the last Christmas is also going to be the first Christmas. And it's the last Christmas, but then the Christmas afterwards is going to be celebrated as world independence or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember that scene from the movie Independence Day. The president is giving this speech before this, I guess, combined force of several nations. He says, if we win this day, the 4th of July will no longer be just an American holiday.
Exactly.
And I remember that.
Exactly. But this is going to be different because if the numbers
Mm.
coming out of Great Britain are correct, then that means that everybody that got the real vaccine, there's a good chance that they'll be immune compromised and they're going to start getting sick. And this is going to start happening in greater and greater numbers. And it's all going to point back to the vaccine. And this is all going to start. So if everybody starts getting really sick as we're leading up to Christmas, there will be no Christmas. There'd just be nothing. I mean, there's already setting up for that. The supply chain is falling apart. And things are getting expensive. People are more worried about heating their homes than they are about putting gifts under the tree. So things are getting fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people start getting sick leading up to that time, then the time afterwards is going to be a huge investigation. And then people are going to start being called out. And then at some point, the whole tide is going to shift. And that's going to send us into next Christmas, to where we will declare that Christmas World Freedom Day. So we might be looking at some really fucked up events next year. That shit that
So let's see here. That will appear backwards to you, but it says 56 days until Christmas. I typed in how many days until Christmas, so this is saying 56.
56.
So I just thought I'd look at that. I've never. This is like the first time in my life that I've ever asked for a well, no, it's maybe not this early. I don't know, what's Halloween? It's 55 days from Halloween till Christmas, I guess, isn't it? Because this is one day before Halloween. I never knew that number, but yeah. So let's see what happens in 56 days. A lot can happen in 56 days.
A lot has happened just in the last couple of weeks. Another thing. Well, so far, maybe more by now, at least 7,800 RCMP members have chosen their side, and they have chosen the side of the Canadian Charter of Rights. And they pinned a open letter to their leadership, respectfully asking to begin an investigation into this whole COVID thing, because there's questions that have been asked and answers that are not making sense. And so they would like to get to the bottom of all of this, which could end up investigating the prime minister. So I guess we're waiting to see if the RCMP leadership will let the members conduct a lawful investigation into COVID and all these mandates, and what they're saying is true or not, because there's too much censorship going on, and we've got scientists, credited scientists, coming out and saying one thing, but then we have scientists on the other side, accredited scientists, saying something different. So why do we have two distinct groups of scientists not agreeing? We got to figure out why. One of them is obviously lying, so let's find out which ones are, and let's deal with the liars. Be it if it's the scientists that are lying about the vaccine injuries or deaths, if they're lying about that, I want to know. Or is the other side lying, saying that there is none? I want to know that too. I want to know the truth. I mean, right now, all we're going by is numbers that no but government doesn't even want us to see. So we end up getting these numbers by accident or through surreptitious ways, and it just becomes a big question mark again. It's like, it's like when I was saying earlier about how Buddy got that information. So, you know, the documents.
Somebody decided to do it, or some it landed on somebody was a temp in there, or the position had been changed, or new
Yeah,
employee. Who
I
knows?
mean,
We don't know the circumstances,
yeah, the
but
only
yeah.
good thing about that is that the PDF documents that he has all have the uh, uh, British Ministry of Health symbol on them. So at least they're official documents.
Hmm.
But, again, who the hell knows about any of this? It's it'd be nice to have some more clarity.
Yes. Yeah, I keep thinking that there must be something that's going to happen that will, um, for lack of a better word, pin it down to one thing or another, or resolve. What is it? Schrodinger's cat. We find out whether it's alive or dead. It right now there's two realities existing, and we flip back and forth between them. I suspect that at some point there can only be one.
Yes, yes. And you know what? That is absolutely correct. It is like jumping between two timelines, especially for like someone like me that's like paying attention on both sides, to make sure to see what's going on, trying to figure out what's going on. It is two very different realities, and both are just as believable.
Yes,
Except,
yes,
yeah,
they are, which is weird as heck.
yeah, but I see. I mean, one is self-destructive, while the other one wants to, move forward into the future, into a sustainable future, not this cannibalistic capitalism that we have right now. And because it's just a disgusting system that we have. I love capitalism. I love the idea of capitalism, but I mean, capitalism was never meant for these huge multinational corporations. That is where things have gone off the rail. Yeah,
Yes.
somehow, some way, these I mean, how is it that these countries are selling land, all countries, even Canada does it, sell land to people who are not citizens of that country?
Hmm.
I mean, that
That's
shouldn't
right.
even be allowed. If you're not a citizen of that country, you should not be allowed to own land in that country. Lease it, rent it, sure, but you're paying that money to a citizen of that country that where you have decided to set up shop. And that's where the problem comes in. These multinational companies are allowed to own property in
Hmm.
multiple countries. That is just wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. Because I'll tell you, if they were just renting or leasing the land, then the rights and privileges that they enjoy as a landowner do not exist. They exist within the boundaries of the lease agreement that they make with their landlord. So if you want to do business and like, so if a foreign country, foreign national corporation cannot buy land in Regina, but can only rent it, it has to negotiate a lease agreement with the landlord who is a resident of Regina, caring about his community. How many restrictions do you think can be put onto that lease? You know, no chemical dumping, no polluting, follow the city ordinance. If you don't do that, then you'll be evicted within 30 days. Fuck you. We don't care. And we're keeping all your shit that you don't take with you within your 30 days. Yeah. Companies would behave properly. See, just one little switch. I'm not talking about like changing the whole system. Just don't allow foreign uh, people, foreign companies to own land in countries that they do not, where they are not citizens.
Okay. And we got a comment here by Justin. He says, back to how Sears and Safeway Canada operate. I guess he's referring to the, what you were talking about.
Yeah. They just, yeah. And then they just wreck, they could just wreck the land and then just leave the locals to fucking clean it up. That's what happens with like mining companies too, foreign mining companies that come into an area. They just shit on the locals, mine everything out of the ground, and then they're gone. And the locals are left with polluted water and sour land. It's just devastating. So, you know, it shouldn't be allowed. Same thing with our election. See, the little tweaks that need to happen are so small, but could have big, huge ramifications. Like, take, for example, the political, how the government is set up in Canada for at the federal level, at the provincial level too. Some of the American watchers might find this interesting. See, in Canada, it's the political party that chooses the leader of that party. And yes, that's disgusting in a democracy when you think about it. The one little change that's all that's needed is the party is the party. But if you want to be prime minister, you run as an independent, not beholden to any party. You could have a slant. Obviously, in political circles, you're always going to have a slant, whether it be liberal, whether it be conservative, or whatever. I mean, you're going to have your slant and you're going to favor certain policies, but that would eliminate the whole idea of the prime minister telling his party how to vote. Because without that, then the members that you elect to go to Ottawa, they have a party affiliation and a party belief, but in the end, they have to vote according to their constituents, because that's how they're going to get in on the next election if they like being a politician.
Right, because it comes down to representation and who is representing. I think what you're talking about is the representation should be as unencumbered as possible. It should be the people, the representatives represent the constituents, and the prime minister represents the country, but he doesn't have as much influence over his party.
Exactly. And then that would separate things so that people it just gets rid of these members in parliament that toe a party line. And they all do toe the party line. I mean, once these people get elected, and yeah, they all go to Ottawa with all the best intentions, But the problem is that once they get to Ottawa, they end up in these rooms meeting all the other members that got elected in on their party. And they're basically told that if they don't do what the leader of that party says, they'll be excommunicated from the party and they'll be stuck as a backbencher. Well, nobody wants to be a backbencher. But the thing is that once you get rid of like the official leader position, what usually ends up happening in groups is that people will just gravitate towards the leader that has the interests of the group and the interests of the country. People will just gradually gravitate towards that person. It happens in every group that doesn't like have no official leader. A leader will emerge, and people will follow that person if they are doing well. And the best thing about those kinds of scenarios when it comes to like group activities is that nobody made that person the official leader. So that means if he starts doing something stupid, people can just start ignoring him and figure out what they're going to do on their own. So that's, I mean, that's how I can see like just a small little change in the political landscape would make all the difference in everything. And same little changes are happening down in the States. I mean, little changes that are being done to how elections are going to be done in the states, individual states, especially in like the Republican states. Uh, they have made enough changes in how the votes are going to be counted that there will be much more transparency in the 2022 election than there was in the 2020 or the 2016. So they've seen they've seen all the holes in their that was just the phone ringing. So anyways, yeah, so they're plugging all the loopholes in their laws. The big thing that is happening is that the legislators at the state level are taking back control of the elections like they were supposed to begin with. But over time, they had like farmed out that that responsibility to different public offices, but now they're clawing back that power. And it's like, yeah, we're not gonna loosen those reins again. So they've learned something. So that's happening a lot, and that's a big deal. And what else we got coming up? Trump's new Truth Network, Trump Social. Did you see anything about that yet?
Trump's social media, yeah. The only thing I saw about it was an item in my, because I've got, Microsoft Hotmail, they throw that MSN news that says it was hacked before it even launched or something like that. I'm sure that's fake news, but yeah, no, I'd be interested to see what happens with it. I've heard of it, yes.
Well, it's also about, you see, this is the part that I love the most, and people don't get it. I guess more Halloween horror stories. Trump has signed up with an acquisition company. I think it's called Shape or Sharp. Anyways, I forget. And an acquisition company has only one purpose, and that is to acquire other companies. So that's what that's
Okay.
so no, so he's got Trump Social or Trump Media Network, and then he has this acquisition company sitting over here too. So it's his acquisition and holding company. I was just going through some articles and reading some things that people were saying about the whole thing. And then it struck me like lightning. It's like, oh shit. He got that acquisition company because one by one, he's not he's not going to build a social network. He's going to buy it. He'll buy Twitter once the stock has once the bottom has fallen out of the stock, he will buy Twitter. When the bottom falls out of the stock for Facebook, he will buy Facebook. When the bottom falls out of Amazon or Google or any number of these big tech companies, he's going to buy them. Actually, I think in the end, what will end up happening is that Amazon will be pretty much, Amazon and Google will be the last two monsters to fall. I personally believe that Twitter will be the first company that Trump's acquisition company will get. That will be the first one. And I suspect Facebook may end up being the second, or maybe a couple of others in between, and then finally Facebook. And then Amazon will follow, and Google will probably be the last monster. And Trump is just going to swallow all of these companies up into the Trump Media Corporation. And
So that's what he meant by draining
yeah,
the swamp, among other things. But
well,
how long do you think he planned that?
right from the beginning. Yeah, that's how you start a chess game. And this is, I mean, and I think they've already, I mean, if I figured it out, I'm sure Jack Dorsey's figured it out by now. And yeah, so he had all of this. I mean, you imagine if he had all of this planned, because I right from the beginning when Trump said that he was going to have his media network, I kept on wondering. It's like, buddy, you have no idea. It's like Google built its servers over a decade. It took a long time to build those servers and those server farms. Facebook took a long time to build up its servers and server farm. It's like to build a server farm now. Oh my God, nightmare. So Trump's not going to build it. He's just going to take over it, because can you imagine having Twitter servers? Oh my God. And it's not that Twitter is bad, it's the algorithm that Twitter uses that is bad, and the censoring.
Yep. Yeah, it's all tools. You just set them. It's what you do with the tool. The networks, these social networks aren't bad per se. They can be, it depends how you want to use them, just like a military or an air force or a weapon or any kind
Yeah. It's all they are, is tools. And a tool can create beautiful furniture in the right hands, or it can create a weapon of destruction in the wrong hands. And so if Trump acquires Twitter, I mean, I've tried all the other ones, man. I've tried like Gab, I've tried Getter, I was on Par. I always come back to Twitter. I like the way that it flows. I like the setup of it.
Yes.
And it's like, God damn it. And if it was a proper platform that followed the guidelines of free speech, actual free speech, then then it would just be super. And my attitude is that if people are saying stupid shit, it just means that they're just going to have fewer people listening to them. And I would think that our society has reached a point now to where we know the difference between online reality and real life. I mean, that
Yeah.
was always like the big concern back in the 90s with video games. They're always afraid, oh, people will act this
Hmm.
stuff out in real life. Well, it's 20 years later. It's not fucking Grand Theft Auto everywhere. And the only place where it is Grand Theft Auto is in cities where the mayors have fucking defunded their police departments. So whose
Hmm.
fault is that?
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to, let's see, I don't know if you, how much longer, I'll interject and we can talk about this more later if you want to. Facebook, was it, it's becoming, or whatever, it's becoming Meta, something like that, or Meta is, Facebook is one part of it or something. I just read the thing on when I upgraded my Facebook, and it says Facebook will be the same. It'll be part of this Meta network or whatever. I don't know quite what that means yet, but I just wanted to put that out there that that's I guess launched now.
Yeah, I didn't
And let's see if I can show you
I
a
didn't
picture for those who
I
don't
didn't
know
pay
yet.
much attention to this whole Facebook thing, even though it did cross my radar. I was just like, it's just more fucking PR bullshit, is how I looked at it. I mean, truthfully, the only reason for Facebook, i
Whoops.
the only reason I have it is for stuff like this. It's, to like do, to talk to people, keep up with friends. I mean, if all everybody I know moved to a different platform, I would just go there.
Okay, here's a brief. Oh, this is all backward. Anyway, that's what it's called. There's the symbol. It's a stylized infinity or whatever. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out
Yeah,
there. So little news. Anyway, yeah,
yeah. I
we now return you to your regularly scheduled Crow Network broadcast.
I'm trying to stay within Halloween since it is Halloween.
Hmm.
And oh well,
I do have my things. We can talk about.
yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, okay, yeah. Another comment from. I'll read another comment from Justin, or his next comment, and then I'll tell you a couple of Halloween stories. It says this year I took the most amount of breaks from Facebook and Instagram. I'm sure you're not the only one, Justin. Good
Oh,
for you. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, we watched. I don't know who has seen the show Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates, but he went with a paranormal investigation team aboard the Queen Mary,
oh, yes,
the ship,
I've seen that.
and they recorded various things in various places. But the one that was the spookiest to me, and assuming they didn't stage this whole thing, who knows whether they
Mm.
did, but they went in the ballroom and used one of those sensors like the Connect system uses, that it measures like your hand movements and stuff. To anyway, people who've heard of Connect will know what I'm talking about. They set up one of these sensors pointing at Josh sitting on the stage, and then they'd been talking to a ghost. They had 3 flashlights, and the ghost was turning the flashlights on and off. And Josh was sitting beside the flashlights, and they saw the the Connect was locked onto Josh, and then it got what looked like a stronger signal, and it was a person kneeling on the floor, reaching across Josh to do the flashlights. And I was like, okay, that is spooky.
Wow. I,
And I watched this stuff, and I'm like kind of skeptical, but that kind of just that got me.
Oh, yeah, I seen that one, and it's all like super intriguing to see that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I personally think that people manifest that stuff themselves, and they're
Yeah, that could be.
because a group of paranoia investigators, they
Paranoid investigators.
paranormal,
I'm gonna
paranormal. Uh, they
paranormal.
um they were doing an experiment, and
42.
the results showed that the paranormal activity uh, only seemed to happen when certain individuals were present in the house,
Hmm.
because they would like search for ghosts with the house empty and the families like staying the night somewhere else, and they would have like nothing all night, nothing. And then the family would come back, and a couple of them had the bright idea that, you know what, let's go back and while the family's there, and let's do the night while the family's there. Well, while the family was there was all kinds of activity. And so they're just like, well, what the fuck? And so they did more tests, and they narrowed it down to the mother. She was basically a poltergeist. She like created all of this stuff going on in the house. She didn't even know she was doing it. Nobody would even guess that she was doing it. Very pleasant person, but who knows? Might have been some underlying things going on there. But anyways, so yeah, and so I mean, the Urantia book tells us that spirits sleep until the epoch when they're awakened, so there's nobody running around.
Hmm.
I think that a lot of it is echoes from the morphogenic fields. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I think it's just manifesting, like it's just ghost memory in the morphogenic fields. There's no personality attached to it. And right now,
Okay, let's take a look at that.
and here's the thing too, is
Yep. Okay, yeah, no, go ahead.
well, at this time of year, they say that this time of year is the thinning of the veil that's supposed to last from now until like Christmas or a little after Christmas. And so this is like
Hmm.
supposed to be like the walls in reality are thinning. But also what happens at this time of year is look at all the death that happens at this time of year. Like all the leaves go sour, they fall off the trees, and it's like that's
Hmm.
all this death all at once. And I wonder if that's,
Bugs are dying by the
yeah.
millions.
And I'm
Remember that Calvin and Hobbes? Calvin goes outside and he revels and he said, "Bugs are dying by the millions." Yeah. Anyway,
so
so yeah, you're right.
that's a
You're right.
huge release of energy when you think about it.
Hmm.
All that
Yes, yes.
energy has to go somewheres. But meanwhile, you've got the bottom half of the planet, I guess, the other half of the planet on the southern axis, that that is coming into life. You suppose this whirlwind is all this energy of death flooding to the south for the new life that is about to grow there?
Mm.
And then in the spring, we have this surge of energy in the north. Do you suppose that's all everything dying in the south, and we're having a surge of that energy coming north for the new life?
Circulation of
Oh,
energy.
that's a energetic toroidal field.
Hmm.
Anyways, I thought that was pretty neat. So that's something that's going on at this time of year. There's a lot of energy flying around, and it's energy that we can, because it's moving energy, we can affect that energy. And okay, all summer, which was winter in Australia, but their winters aren't like our winters at all. So don't get the wrong idea of winter in Australia. And so they were they were like being like going along with all these mandates, getting locked down, the police being brutal in their lockdowns and shooting people with rubber bullets, tear gas, and riot shields. It was a mess all summer, their winter. Now, this week, the police are standing up for the people. That's already started up here, and now the toroidal field has taken that all the way down, and it would mean that at this time of year the energy is speeding up. So because all the energy is speeding downwards to the new life, it's got to displace the energy, it's got to move back up through the toroidal field, which brings us to Nikola Tesla with his
Uh-huh.
369 and the power. This is just a small piece of a toroidal field. Like there's more connections that come off of this. This also creates a 9-point star. And what's interesting about this is the rabbit hole I fell down. Well, just kind of looking up some Halloween stuff. So you're all coming with me for a minute. So what you do is you take two, or you take, yeah, you take two and you raise it by a power, starting at 1 and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way up. So you got 2 raised to the power of 1 is going to be 2. And then 2 to 4, and then so if I can explain this correctly, you're going to move up through the scale, and 2 comes 4, 2 raised to the power of 2 is going to become is 3 to 6, or no, 3 to how does that go? Maybe if I bring it up. I'm so like bad at this. But anyways, you're doubling your numbers by the power of 2, and you get a repeating pattern of 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. And that is the repeating pattern when you start raising things to the power of 2. And and then what Nikola Tesla did is he also he wanted to know where 3, 6, and 9 was. Okay, so he found 3 in 1 and 2. 1 plus 2 becomes 3, so he found 3. And then 8 and 7 is 15, but 1 and 5 is 6, so he found his 6, but he's missing his 9. So 6 and 3 is 9. And then once you got 9, you have infinity. Because 9 has this weird property of whenever you double it, it reduces back to 9.
Yes. 18, 36, 27,
Yes.
54.
And you times any number by 9, it will always reduce back to 9. So 9 times 2, 18. 8 plus 1, 9. Do it again. 3 times 9. It's going to be 36. Reduces to 9. All the way back. So when we have a pattern, we line up that pattern and we try to figure out what the hell's going on. And so Nikola Tesla set up this drawing, and it's a two-dimensional. It's only a two-dimensional, but it helps us figure out that this is actually the heartbeat of God, is what this is. And this is creation, because inside of this drawing and all of these numbers is the seed of life. And if you've got the seed of life, you've got the flower of life. And these are all the equations that make up all the living organisms in the universe. Everything can be broken down to a mathematical equation, because no matter where you go in the universe, 1 plus 2 is always going to equal 3. 1, 2. You put them together, it's always going to be 3. You take 1 away, you've got 2. You don't have 3 anymore. So this is why math is beautiful, and it gives us the truth. And I see the whole thing as just being part of this magnificent body of the universe that's just, its sole purpose is just to create life. That's it.
There we go. 9 equals infinity is what I've titled this segment.
I guess that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to look at the Schumann Resonance?
Oh, that's so messed up. It's like,
okay, here it is. And it's backward for you. So let's see, this is the past and this is the present here. And I go that way. And let's see, from the last day, this is yesterday. No, this is yesterday. This is, well, it's 12 hours ahead. So but anyway.
that's like,
yeah, so those are pretty much.
that's like the calm before the storm.
Yeah. And then, yeah, there's some chaos, but a lot of synchronicity in here.
Yeah, it's pretty smoothed out. Even though those lines are jagged, they're staying actually, within certain parameters. But look at where the yellow line is.
Yeah, they're kind of, yeah. The yellow, okay, yeah.
It's way the hell up there.
Yeah, it's way up. Wow, nice.
Yeah, I've been looking at these and I just keep thinking to myself, this is the calm before the storm. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, and then I thought of something related to, Justin said he took a lot of the most breaks from Facebook and so on, and it's I thought of something. A lot of my social media and my websites and stuff, the art sites that I follow, all of that has taken on a bit of a different flavor over the last year. It's been kind of not so not so satisfying as it used to be. So it's, yeah, we're kind of weaning ourselves off of it, maybe, or we should be.
There were,
or not, but maybe changing the way we interact with it, I would say, would be a better thing to say, maybe. But please go ahead.
this was actually being predicted a couple of months ago by social philosophers and the reason for it, and I don't know, you'll have to search for the truth of it yourself, is people are starting to have a craving for truth. We've outgrown our gossip phase. We're beginning to outgrow our gossip phase, is what it is. And so more important things are starting to come up in people's minds. Whether they even know it or not, it's just there. And unfortunately, it's manifesting itself as anxiety, is what it is. People, remember how we talked about the gift of discernment being poured out on the planet?
Yes.
It's beginning to take hold. And I also said that there'll be people that won't be able to handle the truth well, and they will probably deny it to their own detriment. And I'm starting to see this happening when I look around the world, is people innately are seeking the truth, but they're not searching in a spiritual way. They're searching in a self-serving, self-survival way, and that's why it's manifesting itself as anxiety. People need to shift and start searching in a spiritual way, and then the truth will come at them in an avalanche. So that's how I'm seeing it all unfolding now. And soon there'll be no denying the truth. And a lot of it is right in your face. It's, oh my God. It's like, did anybody see those videos that the White House released of Kamala's surprise birthday party? If you didn't see it,
I haven't.
if you haven't seen it, well, don't bother. But I'll tell you, it was just like, it was the most fucked up thing. She walks into the room and she says surprise before the people in the room say it. I mean, right off the top, that's just fucked. And then the other video, and it's like, oh my God, why would you show this? They had a camera following or ahead of Joe Biden. So Joe Biden was always walking towards the camera, that angle. And he looked like a man who had shit his pants. Or he walked like a man who had shit his pants. Seriously. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, why? Why would you show that? I mean, change his fucking diaper. Take two. It's the White House. It's all staffers anyways. If it takes 3 takes to fucking get a decent shot of the president coming down the hallway, walking like a fucking fully abled and capable man, isn't that what your PR specialists are supposed to portray. I mean, I don't mind truth, but I mean, I also think of like, I know how industry works. So I'm thinking like the lunacy of a person who is supposed to be taking care of his PR image would even allow that to even come out.
Mhm.
It's like, you know, like I said, they they could have done it 3 times and if they did and that was the best shot, fuck me.
Oh dear, that's a bad mental image
Yeah.
there.
And after Biden had his public meeting with the Pope, and oh man, oh what a fucking train wreck that was. Just random stories out of the blue, no rhyme or reason for a fucking thing. And basically, they did have a private meeting, and then they were supposed to have like a public discussion. The Pope canceled the public discussion after the private meeting. It's like, yeah, he probably sat down with fucking 30 minutes with this guy and realized that he couldn't do another 2 seconds. Yeah, or just fucking, it was just too much. It's like, we can't have this. I mean, the stupid shit that was coming out of his mouth, even the translator, just, she didn't even know what the hell. Uh, yeah, it was just messed up.
We we have we have put together, I think, the largest election fraud campaign in the history of this nation. Carve that on his freaking
Yeah.
tombstone, man.
And the part that I love the most, and if it's true, every decent Catholic should be pissed off. Um, uh, so one of the reporters asked Joe Biden about abortion. Did you and the Pope discuss abortion? And Joe Biden was like, nope, didn't come up. Well, shame on the Pope, okay? And then Biden added, all on his own, but I can do communion. He gave me his blessing for communion. I'm just like, what the fuck?
Okay.
I have my own opinion about communion, but I understand how the Catholics feel about communion. So it doesn't matter how I feel about it, it's how they feel about it. And every good Catholic should be just fucking horrified right now. If the Pope gave his blessing for Joe Biden to take communion.
Right, because he's not a priest, he's not an ordained minister or anything like that, as far as I know.
No,
You,
but it's
he has no, he's not a church leader.
no, and plus he's not.
Or what? Well, I should ask, what do you have to? What's the qualifications to, under the Catholic Church? Do you have to be a priest
Oh,
to administer communion?
oh, okay. No, not administer, to take communion. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And so
okay.
communion, like, if you have sins that need to be confessed, you can't take communion. And Joe is like working night and day to make sure abortion pills get passed. And, uh, like bills that would allow them to kill a baby as soon as it's born. I mean, shit's fucked up, buddy.
Right, and that's slightly at odds with the Catholic Church,
Yeah,
just
just
slightly.
slightly.
And yeah.
So for the Pope not to bring it up because Joe Biden supports this legislation, for the Pope not to bring it up is just not right. I mean, these are things that normal Catholics bring up all the time about Joe Biden because he supports abortion. And then to give a blessing on communion, to say that he can take communion when the church in Washington won't give Joe Biden communion. No, so there's that. So the local police in Washington, D.C. will not give Joe Biden communion and has told all the other priests not to give Joe Biden communion. And now Joe tells reporters that the Pope has given his blessing that he can take communion.
What is Biden's denomination? Is he Catholic?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I did not know that.
So yeah, Catholics should be a little pissed off right now. And if they're not, then what the hell? Your religion is worth nothing because the principles aren't there. If there's no principles in your religion, then what's the point of your religion? That's what it comes down to, as far as I can see. That's what religion is: a set of principles that you have decided to live by. Simple as that. That's what, in a nutshell, that's what religion is. Yeah. And people think that it's all the fucking glamour and glitz. It's not. It's how you want to live. At least that's the definition that Jesus put to it. So take that for what you. Oh, that was another thing. I stumbled across a video. A guy was talking about the Book of Thomas. That isn't supposed to exist, but it's part of the Red Sea Scrolls that have
Dead Sea Scrolls,
that have been translated, and it's only 12 pages. Now, these scrolls were found like maybe 30 years ago. No, maybe 40 years ago now. Maybe sometime in
1940, after World War II, something like that.
Mid-20th century. Yeah, and I think they were only recently translated.
Was it 1937?
I think they were only recently translated. Yeah. So anyway, in the video, the guy was reading a little bit from this book of Thomas, and what he was reading was almost exactly what the Urantia book says. It was really messed up. Like, it was like, basically this book was like, these are the words of the living Jesus. So he was like, these were words that he had said and he had written down. So this was like given to him firsthand knowledge from the actual listener directly to him. So it was someone, so he was dictating what somebody had told him that actually heard the words of Jesus. And what that guy had told Thomas was almost verbatim of what's in the Urantia book for what Jesus teaches. I was like, that's fucking messed up. And these were the books that the Vatican did not want to have part of the New Testament Bible. And they were going to give to the world. Like, the stuff that this was saying was like about living in the now, about the kingdom, how it's in you and not outside of you, but it's outside of you as well. Basically, it's like you live the knowledge inside yourself as well as outside yourself. So whatever principles that you have decided to build your character upon, you are to manifest them inward as well as outward. And that is what Jesus was teaching his disciples. And there's were like questions. It's like, what kind of character should a person build? And these were questions that his disciples had asked, and Jesus would answer them to build a good character built on the foundation of goodness and fairness and mercy. These are the foundations for your character, and this is how you derive from there. And so they were just lessons that you find in the Urantia book, but you don't find in the New Testament. And when you read them, yeah, you figure out real quick why the Vatican didn't want everybody to have this knowledge, because it would have made the individual the master of his own fate. And that's not what the Vatican wanted. They wanted to be the master of the individual's fate so that they could have their feudal control over the world for whatever reason. And, in a way, it's kind of what we needed, because, if you can see how things were before Christianity showed up in a certain area, it's just a complete fucking nightmare no matter how you looked at it. You'd have this one group constantly killing the other group. Christianity comes along and puts an end to that. It's like when the pioneers did come to North America, the Vatican preachers, this is the thing, like, you can say whatever you want about Catholicism. One thing they were really good at sending out their missionaries. And the thing is that once these missionaries got to where they were at, all they had was like the New Testament. And that's all they had for their belief. And that's what held them together, was their faith. And all that, Jesus knew this as well as anybody. Just needed that crack. Just that little crack. And once these missionaries got out and they're doing their job, they would start to get influenced by the native population. They would learn their languages. And next thing you know, the good ones, they would just end up adding the teachings of Christ to what they already had, and they would slowly come over to religion. And in the case of North America, I don't know, a lot of First Nations tribes loved Christianity as taught by the missionaries, who didn't teach a Vatican view of Christianity. I guess they looked at the New Testament and they taught just out of that. And that is what the First Nations in North America embrace, and that actually brought peace to the tribes, because now the tribes had something in common. They had they began to understand that, you guys believe the same thing as we believe, helping each other, community. Before, they didn't. The tribes weren't, like, they did business with each other, but they didn't intermingle much with each other. Like, the leadership would intermingle so that they could, like, exchange bloodlines so that they didn't end up with a problem of inbreeding. So that was the extent of how the First Nations communicated with each other. Other than that, if you were a tribe and you actually accidentally ended up on another tribe's territory, that tribe pretty much took it as a license to torture and kill you, and then dump your body back across the border and just say, don't fuck with us. End of story. It was it was pretty brutal, I guess. They had their ways of doing things. I don't know if those stories are true or not because history is written by the victors. And then I have other stories from First Nations, how they cooperated and they were like keeping everything going, working with nature and, hunting game and, keeping tabs on the forest. They used to light controlled fires in like all across like the Rocky Mountains in British Columbia. They used to do that shit all the time, like in and about their villages, because they weren't stupid. They knew that if they could keep it under control, it meant that lightning from the sky wouldn't accidentally start a fire and they all end up dead. So they knew how to, they knew how to keep the forest managed around them. Hell, Europeans knew how to do that 1,000 years ago. But somewheres along the line, people just seem to forget shit. It's like it's fucked up. I'll tell you. Wow. Yes. Bees. Bees. I got uh I got interested in bees, so I ended up watching a bunch of videos on bees. And I ended up stumbling across this guy who told a whole history of bees. How humans have like cultivated bees for like forever and how they used to do it. And he would lay out the whole history of bees and it just would blow your fucking mind that bees played such a big role in human existence. You didn't even know. And he was like pointing out like people's diaries. Like they would be like little passages in their bees talk about like they would have like 1,000 hives. Like, what? Like it was nothing for like people who owned land to have like 1,000 beehives that they were tending to on a regular. It's like, what the hell? Just bees everywhere at that time. And what they used to do is like they would they would like hollow out logs and they would just like and put a cover on them so that they could open the cover and they could get at the honeycomb, steal the honey and stuff like that. Others built boxes that they would put out and they would talk about like how they would like catch like the local bees who were used to foraging in that area. They would like capture those swarms and then they would bring them back to their farm and then they would just have bees forever because they would do stuff like that. And they talked about a technique of how they would build boxes or baskets and they would hang them up in a tree to catch bees. Okay, so that's the history stuff. Okay, fast forward to the 21st century, and this is the shit that blows your mind. In the last like 20 years, scientists have been doing like some pretty good studies on bees, especially like about bees and natural habit. But most of this studying was done prompted by like mostly beekeepers wanting to have answers and trying to figure things out themselves. Well, now in the 21st century, we're just starting to figure out how to do beekeeping the way our ancestors did. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, and this guy showed how in history, this is what our ancestors did. 21st century science says the exact same thing that our ancestors had said to do. Oh, you want to catch a swarm of bees? No problem. Put your container up in a tree about 10 to 15 feet. Make sure that it looks like it's a little bit part of the tree. Bees will come, and when they come, you put a cover on it, you take them home. Simple as that. Well, this guy now, today, in 2021, what he does is he's got like bees all over his property. He builds beehives. He just builds and builds and builds. He goes out and he puts these boxes up in trees, especially like along roads, and he gets swarms of bees looking for a home. Well, they get in his box, they start going to work. He puts the cover on that box. He takes that back home, takes them out of that box, puts them in another box, and that's home for the rest. That's home forever for them. And he puts them in these big boxes, and he's got them scattered all over his property. And what he's done is these boxes that he builds them, they're insulated, and they're set up in such a way that he could just close them up, and he doesn't have to even think about them. The bees take care of their own shit. He doesn't deal with them. The only thing he does is he'll go over to to the beehive, and he'll harvest the honey. He gets wild honey every year, gets tons of it, pounds and pounds of it. So much so that he kind of can sell it and make a living from it. All these beehives, and he doesn't do anything special for them. They're all wild bees from that area. All he's done was give them a home and easy access to their goodies when he wants to. I was like, damn, that's clever. But yeah, he figured that he relearned everything that our ancestors knew about bumblebees. Imagine how much more we've forgotten. How messed up is that?
Yeah. And you said it's funny how we forget stuff, and I laugh, but I catch myself doing the same thing, just over the course of my life. I'll have known something and then forget it and then relearn it, and it's kind of depends what kind of necessities I'm looking at in my life as far as living. I need to know about this sort of thing or that. It's, I don't know. It's strange.
Well, I mean, things just get filed in a different spot. It's like, there's like a shit ton of things that you don't think about because you don't need them. You don't use it. Why bother having it?
Yeah.
Free up space for other stuff. That's how I always looked at it. And there's like I've learned so much shit over a lifetime. Yeah, defrag.
Compress your files. It's you think about it, it's far so much faster than the fastest computer we have to do. Because defragging our brain takes it happens almost instantaneously and automatically and stuff. And what volume of data is in there? I don't know. How do you quantify it?
I see.
How many
Shit
terabytes?
like this. Yeah. See, I think about like how our memory works and how we learn. Man, you know that our society is fucked up when we have had 50 years of public schooling, and public schooling has gone downhill instead of gotten better. I mean, you would think that in a society that was progressive, that our education system would become better, not worse over time. I mean, there's kids coming out of so-called third world countries that are smarter than the people in this country. It's like, what the hell? It's like, what's going on? Why is, like, I believe that if you were to teach kids like how to learn and how to organize their memory while they're young, then learning when they're older just becomes something that you do, just like breathing. It's just part of you.
And
You
you
just
said that the quality should not only have gone up of schooling, it should have gone up, exponentially, because if you think about it, you teach the next generation a little better than you were taught, and they teach the next generation a little. It should be a positive feedback loop, right?
yeah.
It should be a compounding effect, theoretically a compounding effect, but we're not seeing it.
You would think that after 50
Anyway,
years,
yeah.
yeah, of public schooling, you would think that within a 12-year period, every kid could graduate with a college level degree. Because to me, it's like from grade 5 to grade 9, you would learn, or grade 1 to grade 9, you would learn all your basics. So, I mean, you would spend like from grade 1 to like grade 4 just learning how to learn and how to sort your memory. And then from like grade 5 to grade 9, that's when you learn like your advanced, you start to get into your advanced math, your advanced reading. And, this is where you start getting into more advanced stuff. And once you have the foundation, it's just learn shit. Learn your history. You'd be learning like history, Shakespeare, and you'd just have it all sorted in there. And then by the time you get to grade 9, from grade 10 to grade 12, that should be like, okay, you're either going to work in skilled trades or you're going to become some kind of academia. And that's when things can start splitting off and going your separate ways and to your different, what do you call it, aptitudes. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could be a farmer and you'll have to do both.
Yeah. But I mean, it
I,
depends on the
I,
aptitude.
I can,
And
not to blow my own horn or anything, but I consider myself a scholar, but I know my way around the inside of a transmission and a welder and stuff. I've always actually found it a bit confusing or taken aback when I hear about people being required to choose between, career, that type of career. Like, I don't know, it's a complicated answer, but I think you can blend them to some degree. You don't have to go like one or the other. You can, obviously, and be successful at it. But there's a lot of overlap, I guess. I don't know.
well, there's always going to be overlap in different topics. That's where, like, that's where the
There's
idea.
a third kind of aptitude, I guess I wanted to say. It's not just one or the other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, that's the thing about having a well-rounded education before making a decision to go in a certain direction. Like, to me, it's like grade 5 to 9 should
Yeah.
be like
Yeah.
include everything,
Who?
even the
Why
shit
couldn't a
you don't
person
like.
debate the finer points of? Yes. Yes, indeed. Okay. Re-invited. Can I uninvite him and invite him again? Okay. Go see if you can. Hmm. I'm back, comma. See if you can request to be on again. Loading invite friends. Because it said. that does. Almost 9. Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much for watching. This has been P&K Q&A for Halloween, Season 2, Episode